Okay, so get this. A guy lies about $1 stocks, makes hundreds of millions of dollars, and then only serves 22 months in a minimum security prison. And if that wasn't enough, Hollywood turns his whole life of crime into a blockbuster movie. This is the story of Jordan Belfort, the man who basically scammed America and then got rich all over again by selling the story of how he did it. Let's really dig into how this unbelievable story of crime and, well, reinvention actually went down. Let's just start with Belfort's own words, because this quote, it just tells you everything you need to know. It's not just the total lack of remorse, it's how he immediately points the finger at everyone else, blaming the very system and the people that he took advantage of. This mindset is the absolute key to understanding his entire story.
So, where did a guy like this come from?
Well, our story doesn't start on Wall Street. Nope. It starts in the working-class neighborhood of Bayside, Queens, where young Jordan Belfort had ambitions that were way, way bigger than his surroundings.
From the very beginning, Belfort was a hustler. At just 16, he made $20,000 selling Italian ices on the beach. He did try the traditional path for a second, enrolled in dental school. But get this, on day one, the dean told the class that dentistry wouldn't make them rich, so Belfort literally walked out and never came back. His next thing? A door-to-door meat business, which was a complete disaster and went bankrupt almost immediately.
But that failure, that's where he discovered his superpower. He had this huge realization. The product itself, whether it was steaks or, stocks, was completely irrelevant. What really mattered was the sales pitch. He learned right then and there that with the right story, you could sell absolutely anything to anyone. So, after getting a little taste of a legitimate Wall Street firm, Belfort gets fired during the Black Monday crash of 1987. Now, for most people, that would have been the end of the road. But for him, it was a massive opportunity. He stumbled into the grimy, totally unregulated world of penny stocks. This was the junk that no serious broker would ever touch. And the magic ingredient? A mind-blowing 50% commission on every single sale.
And this is a taste of how he did it. His pitches were just masterpieces of psychological pressure. You see, he wasn't selling a company. He was selling the dream of getting rich quick. He was selling the fear of missing out. He completely bypassed a person's logic and went straight for their greed and their ego.
Okay, so now he's armed with his superpower and this new, incredibly lucrative playground. Belfort was finally ready to build his own kingdom. And in 1989, he founded a firm that would become legendary for all the wrong reasons.
He called it Stratton Oakmont. It was a name specifically designed to sound old money, prestigious, stable. But the reality? Oh, it was a whole different story. It was a chaotic boiler room operating out of a strip mall. The name, just like everything else about the company, was pure fiction.
And his sales army? Forget about Ivy League MBAs. He recruited local hustlers, bartenders, college dropouts, kids who were hungry, not qualified. He gave them his straight-line persuasion method, which was basically a system designed to just bulldoze any objection and force the customer to say yes. And their targets were the very people Wall Street always ignored. Regular, working-class families who were sold a false dream of financial freedom.
So, how in the world did they make so much money so fast? Well, it all came down to a very specific and highly illegal type of fraud.
It's called a pump and dump. And the idea is actually pretty simple. You convince a ton of other people to buy a worthless stock to drive the price up. That's the pump. And then, once it's at its peak, you sell all of your own shares at the top. That's the dump, leaving everyone else holding worthless paper.
Okay, so here's the playbook, step by step. Step 1. Stratton would acquire a massive controlling chunk of a new company's cheap stock. Step 2. They'd manufacture hype, using that whole sales floor to create a frenzy of excitement. Step 3, as unsuspecting investors started buying in, they'd pump the price to the moon. And finally, Step 4, at the absolute peak, Belfort and his inner circle would dump all their shares, crashing the stock and walking away with millions, while their clients lost everything.
This whole scheme fueled an absolutely insane office culture. Try to imagine a trading floor that was part carnival, part zoo. There were air horns going off, guys in $2,000 suits, and just rampant drug use. Strippers were hired for office parties. Belfort wasn't just the boss, he was like a cult leader, preaching the sermon of greed and success at any cost. But, an empire that's built on lies, it can't last forever. The sheer scale of the fraud, combined with all that out-of-control excess, started to attract the wrong kind of attention. The walls were about to close in. The downfall really began in 1994 when the SEC started flagging suspicious activity. By 1996, Belfort's recklessness was literal. He actually sank his 167-foot yacht in a storm. Soon after that, the FBI raided their offices, and the final nail in the coffin came when he was caught trying to wire millions to a secret Swiss bank account. By late 1998, it was all over. He was arrested.
And the crime didn't just stop at the sale. Oh no, the money had to be hidden. So Belfort built this complex web of shell companies and used couriers to smuggle cash overseas, sometimes literally sewn into the lining of their clothes. The FBI called it money laundering. Belfort, ever the salesman, called it asset protection.
So the king was caught. He was facing up to 30 years in federal prison. But this is where the story takes its most unbelievable turn. Jordan Belfort, the ultimate salesman, was about to make the deal of his life.
22. That's it. That's the number of months he actually served in prison. Facing decades behind bars, he cut a deal. He cooperated with the FBI, wore a wire, and turned on his own friends and colleagues. And in return, he got a shockingly light sentence in a minimum security prison so comfortable people call it Club Fed. The contrast here is just staggering. While he was in prison, his cellmate, the comedian Tommy Chong, told him he should write a book. So he did. The Wolf of Wall Street became a bestseller and then a massive Hollywood movie. Belfort got fame and a second fortune. And his victims? They lost everything. Retirement funds, life savings, family homes, just gone.
As part of his sentence, Belfort was ordered by the court to pay back $110 million in restitution to the thousands of people he scammed.
So did he pay it back? Well, take a look. Not even close. Of that $110 million, he's only paid back a tiny fraction, around 10%. Decades later, the vast majority of his victims have never seen a single dime of their money returned.
And what is Jordan Belfort doing today? You're not going to believe this. He's a motivational speaker. He travels the world as a sales coach, booking stages to teach people about success and, you can't make this up, ethics. He has successfully monetized his own crimes.
Just think about that for a second. Belfort turned his prison sentence into a book deal, his fraud into fame. He took the story of his epic downfall and sold it right back to us as entertainment, rebranding himself not as a cautionary tale of greed, but as some kind of story of ambition.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty unsettling question. The movie made him a pop culture icon. People were cheering for him. He became a symbol of this outlaw, anti-hero success. And maybe that's the most revealing part of this whole thing. It forces us to ask ourselves, why after everything he did a part of us still want to be him?